Hello, hello, everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Sirens Den, a fandom podcast where we talk all things movies, TV, games, and pop culture under the sun.
Today, we're joined by Denver filmmaker Derek Zen.
Hello.
Hi.
We're happy to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk just movie stuff. It's a good old movie episode, award show.
Yay.
So before we get to that, let's jump into the news. In set picture news, there have been some set photos released from Thor: Love and Thunder, featuring Chris Pratt, Natalie Portman, a new Thor look, which I'm very, very excited for, and new character suits for Nebula, and just some more MCU news. Actually, our whole news slate is just MCU stuff that's been dropping.
Which I think is really going to contrast well with all the Golden Globe stuff that we're doing. Really just cater to two different audiences.
So in Thor news, there is a new version of the Thor look. He is keeping his long hair from Endgame with his beard, which I'm super, super excited for. But it seems like he has gotten back into shape. And there's pictures of him with like this red leather, like strapless vest. I'm excited to see, how Taika Waititi brings this new chapter to life, because I know Ragnarok was an absolute delight, and it's very colorful, and bringing in the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is also what we saw in set photos with Star-Lord and Nebula. It seems like Nebula has joined them as a Guardian.
And honestly, I'm really excited to see what Taika Waititi brings again to the Marvel Universe, because he did such a good job in just pulling back the Thor franchise from the brink of death. And the Guardians is already relatively just well established and kind of health and done well. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how his flavor of comedy and directing makes his way into those characters. And I think it's going to go really, really well. So, Derek, we know that you are not much of a Marvel guy. However, we do know that you are a film guy. And Taika Waititi, what are your thoughts on him as a director?
Well, just to specify, I am very specifically a TV guy. And so actually, I don't know much about Taika Waititi, but I did hear that Jojo Rabbit was very good.
I mean, have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
I've been tempted to watch that show a couple times, and part of what I do is I watch a lot of TV every year, and so if I don't get to it, if I don't get a chance to catch up on it, it's either lost to the wind, or it's brought up like 6-7 years later. So I will get around to it at some point. I do hear it is very good, and I hear it has been, speaking of the Golden Globes, snubbed. I don't think it's listed even in any of the categories.
Nah, that's a good point. I mean, I haven't seen the show either, so I'm intrigued to see. But back to Thor: Love and Thunder and Taika Waititi, I am very excited to see his take on Guardians of the Galaxy. And coming from, I know this is going to sound corny, but both of them are Leos, and they both have their own like really specific directing style. So seeing how both of them kind of like fight it out as like little lion directors, I'm excited to see how Taika brings out the Guardians comedy. So a lot of exciting stuff. I'm thrilled. I'm excited to see a trailer.
Yeah, I'm really pumped for this. Because normally I'm not really like that excited about set photos. Like usually it's just like cool crew members minding their own business in normal clothes. But I was pretty pumped about these, and it was also just kind of cool seeing the set precautions that were being put in place. One thing that I think is notable about all these set photos is most of the people who are not the main cast and crew are masked up. They're you can tell that they're really kind of taking these social distancing protocols good, which is good. We love to see that. Although personally, I will say I think my favorite set photo of the bunch is the one of Natalie Portman on the horse in the mask looking exhausted.
Yeah.
She just has this dead, I just want to pass out, like, just strike me down now. Like, it's
Yeah.
such a, God, I want to go home blank stare. She looks exhausted, which I don't know. I think that's funny. Just the fact that she's on a horse with a mask on. It's a funny photo.
I mean, I'm excited to see where this horse photo fits
I
into
know that
this
too.
movie. But
Because this
yes,
me
no, she's yeah.
she's gonna be, oh my God, what if she's a Valkyrie? And this is training for her being on a horse.
Yeah, it would make sense that she would be training or like being trained by a Valkyrie because Thor passed off the mantle to Valkyrie, and he is now off with the Guardians, the Asgardians of the galaxy. So yeah, she would be trained by Valkyrie and her Pegasus. Moving on to more MCU news. Disney Plus is releasing a Black Panther Kingdom of Wakanda spin-off series.
I'm so pumped.
Just more of the Wakanda world
I
brought
think,
to life is going to be awesome.
yeah, especially because Wakanda is one of the most like iconic places in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And just it was such a highlight for that franchise. So it's going to be cool to see what they do with it, and that they got Ryan Coogler. He's going to be attached to it. So
Awesome.
he's going to have some input in the direction that it's going and what happens with it, which is great because Ryan Coogler, Black Panther, has been his baby, and he's put so much care and thought into it as a franchise. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm also interested to see where it goes in, because this is something that has been announced and presumably came into the works after our poor boy Chadwick Boseman, after he
So
tragically
sad.
passed.
They won't be recasting him, so maybe this could be a way to explain his absence. I mean, I know they're writing it into the future of the MCU, and I'm excited to see who will take up the mantle.
It did remind me of The Five Bloods, which was a movie on Netflix, which Chadwick Boseman was in, and I thought it was really good and very poignant. Chadwick Boseman was a highlight of it, especially since he was in that movie. He was always young, whereas his fellow soldiers, who are the main characters, Boseman is sort of like an accessory because, spoiler, he did not come back from Vietnam. They're portrayed by
Mm,
older, even in the flashbacks, and so it's a very interesting like juxtaposition now, knowing how Chadwick Boseman died. With superheroes, there is a little more fantasy to work around. So if you're asking me, not knowing anything about Black Panther, I would say that he ascended to some sort of like that would be a great that to me would be a very interesting way to keep his legacy in the show while propelling the story forward with different characters who have his legacy in mind. But
absolutely.
a lot of TV shows that like suddenly lose a main character. The one that comes to mind, I didn't actually watch this either. It was Spartacus, and what they did was eventually they did a recast. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to do a recast for the Black Panther TV show,
Mm-mm.
but honestly, it just exploring more of the world is probably the safest thing to do while keeping it grounded in what makes Black Panther Black Panther.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing, yeah, I totally agree. And there are definitely a lot of characters that you just want to see more of. So they can branch out into a lot of things here. And it seems like Marvel TV has been doing a good job in transferring stuff from the movie to a TV format,
Well,
the
Marvel just
MCU.
has, like, incredible amount of, like, IP in the
Hmm.
backlog that they can just scoop out of a bucket and just say, "You know, we can do this right now, why not?" And if they wanna remix it or put a different spin on it, they are well within their capability to do so. It's just a matter of what will surface to the top of the pot. And there was that huge article about the big MCU Disney Plus plan that they're gonna unveil over the next, like, 6 years, and I'm just like, "Wow,
Yeah,
a
it's a
lot."
little intimidating. It's a
Uh-huh.
lot of content.
Yeah. And it's really going to be interesting to see just how this affects the TV market in general. Um, just because Marvel is and Star Wars, for that matter, are both these huge movie franchises. And so now that we're starting to just really explore them in depth and with the same level of hype for TV shows and giving them that same level of budget and care that the cinematic universes have been getting for their movies, it's going to be really interesting to see how this not only affects the Marvel universe, but just like the entertainment universe as a whole. Because there's really not a lot of studios that would be able to pull this off. Like the fact that it is Disney is the only reason that we're getting all of this. And like, I feel like it's going to be kind of a double edged sword, you know? I feel on one hand, we're going to be getting some amazingly well crafted, cared for shows from these franchises that are very beloved. On the other hand, I think Disney is going to further assume dominance in a market that they already have
It
that.
it it'll it might, it might also run the risk of becoming oversaturated, and what Disney's biggest disadvantages compared to other streaming services is that other streaming services try to dip their toes in a little bit of everything, but Disney's
Mhm.
entire model is just, A, it's all gonna be 99% of it's gonna be kid friendly. That's already, like, uh, shuttering off a good portion of the audience. And also, a lot of it is pretty similar to each other. Like compared to the grand scheme of entertainment, there isn't a lot separating WandaVision from the Black Panther series because they're both superhero stories. They're both part of the Marvel universe, and like in the grand scheme of entertainment, like if you were to compare it to like Normal People on Hulu, or Raised by Wolves on HBO Max, those two things are so wildly different compared to the Black Panther, series and the WandaVision series.
That's true. It is kind of a different, beast of television.
It is a very
And
specific niche, and
it is,
like, it is
uh
widespread, but it is also a niche.
yeah, and but I think it's really gonna depend on the direction that they take these. I think because we saw before The Mandalorian come out, there's talks that where Star Wars has kind of taken its dip. It's reached its peak. It's over. No one's really that excited for it anymore. And then cut to The Mandalorian, which was just a really well done TV show. Just as an entity, like not even just as a Star Wars, just it was good TV. And that kind of revived this interest in Star Wars and that kind of really saved the public opinion on it. And I think it's really going to just depend on the quality that they put into these shows. I think the risk becomes that I think these first few shows, I think they're going to be phenomenal. I think they're going to be pulling all the stops. I think they're going to be really concentrating on making sure that the story and acting and everything is as top notch as it can be, which so far we've gotten with WandaVision and for that part, The Mandalorian. I think what we're going to start seeing it maybe dip into the market or not dip into the market, but start to lose its glimmer is when they start like half-assing it really. And we kind of saw
Mhm.
that with Marvel a little bit. Like Marvel in its it did kind of have its awkward stage. It did kind of have its okay, these Marvel movies are doing great. Here's some mediocre movies. Phase 2. Um
Talk about,
I'll take
bringing
your
it
word
back
for
to
it.
Thor and bringing it out of the brink of death.
yeah, and then
Thor: The Dark World was not the pinnacle.
yeah, it really like Thor's a really great example. The first 2 movies were just blah. They were someone went, "Ah, it's a superhero about Thor. It's and the only really redeeming qualities were the performances that the actors were given, which they really didn't get a lot to work with. But then suddenly, now you have Thor 3, directed by Taika Waititi, that really just kind of made fun of everything that made the last 2 movies bad, while also really putting a lot of care into the story and the characters. And it really saved that franchise. And Thor went from the franchise no one cared about to the one that mainly people are excited for. Uh, so all this to say is I think you're absolutely right. But I think that when we see that dip in quality, it's not necessarily going to be because of an oversaturation. It's going to be because they're not putting in the effort in anymore.
Well, I'm actually not I don't know anything because Marvel, but, like, I'd compare it to maybe, like, an anthology series where like, instead of individual episodes having their own like, it's kinda like individual episodes having their own sort of, like, self-contained story. It's kinda like if the anthology series is Marvel, all these different franchise series are their own little episodes, and in almost every anthology series, one of them will suck, maybe 2. If you're Black Mirror, the whole, like, last frickin' season. But, like, despite all that, like, even though Black Mirror's quality dipped in seasons 4 and 5, people still love Black Mirror. Even if so with Marvel, even if they put out a few bad eggs, especially towards the end, people are still gonna like Marvel, like, and the franchise as a whole, and they're just gonna find the 1 or 2 things that they do like about it and largely ignore the rest. So it's a pretty safe thing to do, I think, just to, like, go all in on that franchise if they can, and they will because they can. Anyway, that was all I
That's a
had to
very
say.
good point.
Mhm.
There's a lot of ways they can go. Now with Chadwick Boseman unfortunately not able to be T'Challa, someone does need to take up the mantle. So it could be Shuri, it could be Killmonger because Michael B. Jordan has been in talks to come back. He is, in the lineage, so that would work. Shuri would work too because she canonically does take up the mantle in the comics. But it could also be, M'Baku, because you do have the ability to fight for your title as Black Panther.
Mhm.
There are a lot of ways it can go.
I really hope it's Shuri. I think she would make the most sense. She would be the next in line, like, just canonically. She was one of the best characters in that movie. So, yes, absolutely, did that make sense in that regard. She was kind of the more tech brainy character, so it'd be cool to kind of see her deal with being on that kind of more forefront side of things.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see, what they decide to do. This is obviously going to be in conjunction with the second Black Panther movie.
Mhm.
But, speaking of women leads that we are finally starting to get, our third topic of the day is WandaVision.
WandaVision!
Elizabeth Olsen is hinting at some sort of Luke Skywalker moment.
Yeah.
And, Derek, if you're not familiar, in The Mandalorian, the last episode, Luke Skywalker comes back. And
Played by Mark Hamill himself.
yeah,
Where did
and
he
it was,
go?
well, yeah, that's the thing.
Well,
Where did
It's
he go?
true, true, true. I think it's just, it's
we
young
didn't
Luke.
expect it.
We wanted young Luke.
So with this news article, I had a thought earlier today about WandaVision because those of you guys who listen may not know, but we have a WandaVision breakdown series that you guys should totally check out when you're done listening to this episode. So understandably, we're a little bit obsessed with WandaVision here. So I was thinking about WandaVision in my spare time at work, as I do. And one of the things with WandaVision is there is this whole talk about there being a surprise cameo. Paul Bettany has mentioned that he got to work with an actor that he's never worked with before. There's this whole thing about there's a silhouetted figure in a cape behind like the barrier screen that you see in that show, and everyone's thinking that, oh, maybe it's Doctor Strange, or maybe that's just Vision, that picture of Vision. But I had the thought today just while I was at work, which is, what if it's Magneto? Disney owns that now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that they couldn't do that. It would be comic book accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of with this news article that came out, which I read after, which I think I just thought it was a dumb thought I had. And then I read this article today and I was like, oh, maybe I'm onto something. Is because she says that it is a Luke Skywalker moment. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
about Doctor Strange is he's a popular character, but Luke Skywalker, especially Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, as young Luke Skywalker, is iconic. It is just iconic in media and just franchises and pop culture in general. It's one of the most iconic performances. You know what? One of the other most iconic performances in kind of a franchise is Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto.
Mm-hmm. That would be fabulous. I
And
would love
legit,
that.
that is just, it is the only Luke Skywalker moment that I can think of because it would be.
I can totally see it. I can see it because apparently Michael Fassbender has been in talks with Marvel for a role, but it doesn't look like he's going to be reprising his role as Magneto. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think Sir Ian McKellen would be, yeah, that would be amazing. And it would be interesting if it is true how they kept it a secret, because it is kind of hard to keep something like that a secret, but then again they did it for Mandalorian, so anything's possible.
Yeah. And the other thing that stands out to me is because, and it's the thing that like us who are theorizing about WandaVision keep going back to, is Paul Bettany's interview where he talks about getting to work with an actor that he's always wanted to work with but has never had the chance.
Oh,
And
very true.
like with Benedict Cumberbatch, like on one hand, yeah, they've been working around the same time. They kind of got into the industry around the same time, I think. So that would make sense a little bit, but he said the phrase always wanted to work with, which to me that implies it's someone that he looks up to. It is someone that like just when he was a young actor was already kind of established, because that's when you hang around actors, that's how they talk about actors they admire, right? So
Mhm.
I think Sir Ian, I don't think Paul Bettany and Sir Ian McKellen have been in anything together.
Yeah, I can totally, yeah,
And
probably not.
this could very well just be me convincing myself of just wish fulfillment, just because I had a dumb idea that I thought would be really cool, and now I'm just trying to manifest it into existence, and it's not gonna happen, and I'm gonna look very silly. But
Well, at least you admit that now. We'll see how it goes.
I I think it's possible. So Derek, now that you've heard us talk about and theorize on WandaVision, do you have any inclination to maybe check it out?
It is probably on the top, like, yeah, okay, so first and foremost, if I do get Disney Plus, the first thing I'm watching is the Taylor Swift sort of thing, because for
100%.
folklore. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, but, like, I've been passively, uh, interested in what Disney is doing just because Disney is massive and everything, but the thing that does interest me most about WandaVision is how it goes through the history of television, and that was spoiled to me by an article, headline, and so I was like, "Wow, thanks," and that is honest, like, but since apparently it does it well, maybe I'll be more interested in it. Um, I watched
I mean, what
56 TV shows last year, and none of them were Disney,
wow.
and a lot of them were bad, but whatever. Um,
Well, what do you think of these, like, quote unquote Luke Skywalker moments? Like, what do you
I
think
don't know
of,
what that means.
by that I mean, what do you think of this, like, bringing back fan favorite
Oh,
characters? Like, what's your take on it?
if you do it like Watchmen did, like they have to have a reason for being back. Like they can't just be brought back they because people want them to be back. Even in Watchmen, I did feel aspects of Doctor Manhattan's story. While I did feel like it was a well told story, I did feel like it wasn't exactly as polished as it could have been, and that's not a fault of the performances or the writing. It's just like, did it really need to be part of this story that was so heavily ingrained with racial tensions and generational trauma? Because if I were an eternal god, and this is just a spoiler for the new Watchmen. This is the whole thing is a spoiler for new Watchmen. I why would if I were an eternal god, why would I care about generational trauma and racism? Like that's like and that goes into the sort of depraved nature of Watchmen. Like obviously, but like you would idealize like a godlike figure to be very concerned with injustice. But Watchmen obviously is a whole exploration on that.
Well, in the spirit of movies and TV shows, we're going to talk about our Golden Globe nominations and predictions and thought on the news that came out.
Woo woo!
Was that
Yeah.
was that enthusiastic enough? It's the Golden Globes after all, so how enthusiastic can you be?
So I think part of the fun in coming up with predictions for nominations is kind of considering the outside factors of things. Like I know when Luke and I were talking about the the nominations for the Oscars last year, where he'd seen all of them and I'd seen none of them. We were still able to have like conversations kind of talking about, well, this, well, maybe this, and just kind of a back and forth that way. So just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean we can't like have fun theorizing about it, just kind of based off of like past award shows. Because people who are into like award shows and like keeping track of it, like it's not just it's that's kind of the fun of it. It's not necessarily just it's kind of the competition of it, you know?
So today, the Golden Globe nominations came out, and there's a lot of interesting stuff on here. There were also a lot of snubs, which I'm very salty about. So let's get into it. In the first category for Best Motion Picture Drama is The Father by Sony Picture Classics, Mank on Netflix, Nomadland on Searchlight Pictures, Promising Young Woman from Focus Features, and Trial of the Chicago 7, which is also DreamWorks and Netflix. What do y'all think of those? What predictions do you have? Have you seen any of them? Because I have not.
So it's really interesting going into award seasons this year, because I think this is the first year that for a lot of us we haven't seen a lot of these movies, because there's been a few things going on.
What? Can you explain what's been going on?
You know, just
All right, yeah, fair
some
This
enough.
tiny thing.
I've seen Mank, and I enjoyed Mank, but also it's also a very specific niche film, and it's clearly like one of those David Fincher got interested in something and he had to see it through sort of things. Um, Mank is about the co-writer for a little film called Citizen Kane, which is Orson Welles's sort of big project. And he's an alcoholic. He is obsessive. He's a perfectionist, and but at its core, I think it's just a really interesting glimpse into like old Hollywood. Amanda Seyfried is really good in it, actually, too. I just remembered that. Um,
Yeah, she got nominated. We'll talk about her a little
Hell
later down the
yeah.
list.
Promising Young Woman is a project by Emerald Fennell, and I think she's a good actress. I can only assume it's decent quality because it's here on this list. And then speaking of Doctor Manhattan, the Trial of the Chicago 7, it has a loaded class. I almost said bloated, but it has a loaded cast, and so I kind of want to watch it now. um, it's Sorkin. So yeah, look at it. It's Sorkin. It has Yahya Abdul Mateen the second, Sacha Baron Cohen. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch
Yeah.
it.
I haven't seen any of these films. If I had to pick one, my nomination would be Nomadland, because I've read articles about how this movie is like a front runner for a bunch of awards, having won a decent amount of awards in the past. So
What's it about? Do you know?
it stars Frances McDormand,
Okay, sold. Okay.
and and she is a woman who lost everything in the Great Recession, and she basically she's a van dwelling modern day nomad who starts taking a journey through the Midwest.
All right. Okay.
It's directed by Chloe Zhao, which we'll get to later because she is also nominated. So there's like a lot of really cool things that did happen in these nominations, and again, some snubs. So we'll get to that. As far as drama goes, I don't really have anything because I haven't seen these films, but I'll definitely check them out because they seem to be contenders for the Academy Awards as well.
Yeah. So of the 5 films on here, it's really interesting looking at them, because if I remember correctly, a lot of these films that were directed or were nominated for Best Director, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But the one that stands out to me is Promising Young Woman. That's the one that I've been hearing the most buzz about. It stars Carey Mulligan. It is about a woman who, after her best friend is sexually assaulted, she goes out to kind of attempt to get men to change their ways. I've heard it is just a absolute just wild ride. It's very sharp. It's very I hear it's very sharp, it's very witty, and I hear that Carey Mulligan just gives a hell of a performance. And that's the one that I've just usually around this time in award seasons, the movie that I'm hearing around this time is the one that is I feel is the one to look out for. So I'm feeling Promising Young Woman. I think that one might be our best drama.
I think it'll either be Mank or The Trial of Chicago 7.
Yeah.
The Mank, just because Hollywood likes to suck its own woohoo, and
that's true.
Yeah.
And
Trial of
nothing.
Chicago 7 is loaded cast.
And honestly, on that note, there's really nothing more Hollywood sucking its own woohoo like Hollywood making a film about Citizen Kane.
My vote's on Nomadland. Faith, your vote's on Promising Young Woman, and Derek, you're torn between Mank and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah.
We'll reconvene once this is all said and done, and tally up our answers for a little contest thing, because why not?
Oh, no.
So moving on to the best performance by an actress in a motion picture drama, we have Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. What are y'all thinking? Now that you're telling me about Promising Young Woman, I'm torn between Frances McDormand and Carey Mulligan, because I love them both. They're both phenomenal actresses. And they both apparently have just been doing really good in these movies. So I mean, what are y'all thinking?
I've never heard of Andra Day.
I haven't either.
Everyone else I'd be happy with winning, honestly. They're
I mean,
all very
Viola
talented
Davis
actresses.
is absolutely wonderful.
Vanessa
What do
Kirby
you
is good
think?
in The Crown.
See, this one is kind of tough for me. I'm tempted just to, again, because I've been hearing so much about how just phenomenal Carey Mulligan is in Promising Young Woman, that I could see her getting that. And I don't think she's gotten a lot of award love in the past. Has she won any of like the big ones before?
I don't think so.
I would say I'd be happy if Frances McDormand or Carey Mulligan won for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning closer to Frances McDormand because, like, to me, she has the legacy of like Meryl Streep.
The other one I could see though is I could see Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which
That's true. Viola Davis has her own very reputable.
Yeah, she's just phenomenal in everything that she does. And Viola Davis has this really special relationship with the playwright August Wilson. She's portrayed a lot of his characters on the silver screen. We saw that with Fences, and now we're seeing that now. And so I think just she has a really special relationship with works by August Wilson that I could see her getting some acknowledgement for that. And I would love to see her get some acknowledgement for that. So I think I'm going to give it to Viola Davis.
Oh.
Frances
McDormand.
Awesome. Then I guess I'll be the odd one out and say Carey Mulligan, because she also she has not won any awards. So from what I've seen, I remember watching.
Adams.
Yeah, exactly. She got nominated for a bunch of stuff but hasn't won, and she's a really amazing actress. I remember first seeing her in my favorite episode of Doctor Who, and she just killed it in that episode. And I'd love to see her get some bring home some gold, because from what I've seen in the trailers, it was like one of the movies I was looking forward to watching, and then life happened. So I kind of want to just give it to her, because why not? So that's on me. Carey Mulligan for me, Frances McDormand for you, Derek, and Viola Davis.
My girl Viola Davis. Yeah.
Fabulous. Which leads us to Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture Drama. Riz Ahmed for The Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins in The Father, Gary Oldman in Mank, and Tahar Rahim in The Mauritanian. Take it back.
The Mauritanian is so bad for my dyslexia.
So
sweet Lord.
I haven't heard of Tahar Rahim, but I would personally and I haven't watched any of these movies except for Mank, but I would like it actually to go to Riz Ahmed, because Gary Oldman's Gary Oldman. He'll get another if he doesn't get it for this one. I'm kind of expecting it too, but I think Riz Ahmed would be a nice get because he's very talented.
It's
And I
the Mauritanian. There
the
we go.
Ooh.
Mauritanian, Tan, uh,
Tanian. Oh Lord.
Mauritanian. It's just I look at it and my dyslexia is just going like Mandalorian, the Mandalorian. I know it's not that. Uh, to kind of bounce off of your point with Riz Ahmed, I actually have seen his performance in The Sound of Metal. It's a very potent performance. It's about a drummer
Ooh.
who loses his hearing, and so like his kind of connection to drumming and is kind of his connection to his remaining gift or being able to hear. And it was a very powerful performance. And
Oh, I bet the sound design's intense.
the sound design of that movie is awesome.
Alright.
I would love to see him
Alright.
win for that.
Yeah.
I think it might be Chadwick Boseman, just kind of going in. So a lot of things with these award shows, as
Go
everybody
to a
all knows,
posthumous?
it's yeah. I think he could win it posthumously because he's a very respected, just dedicated actor. He put his all into the roles that he was in. Again, same thing with like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That's such a just it's an iconic role. It's an August Wilson play, or August Wilson being a very prominent African American playwright who's just he did Fences. He did.
We talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, with Viola Davis, and Chadwick Boseman was such a iconic Black actor in America. He's really was known for taking on roles that uplifted the Black community and showed them just in the best light possible. Like he was really dedicated as an actor that way, and so to see him win posthumously for an August Wilson work, I think it would be bittersweet, but
It would speak volumes, yeah.
it would speak volumes, and that isn't. I think he could win it all on his merit too, just as an actor, because Chadwick Boseman has been giving just phenomenal performances in everything that he's in since he's been an actor. So I think that would be nice to see, and I think he would deserve it. So between Riz Ahmed and Chadwick Boseman, I'd be happy with either, but I think it's going to be Chadwick.
Mhm. I'm
I
pessimistic, so I think it'll be Gary Oldman, unfortunately. Not that he was bad, but I think there's other talent here.
I'm gonna go with you as well, Faith, and say Chadwick because I agree he is just an amazing actor in his own right, and it would be a great way to just honor a man who really brought a lot to the craft. And that's probably what's going to happen. Although I would also love to see it go to Riz Ahmed, even though I haven't seen The Sound of Metal yet. I'm very excited for it, from seeing the trailers and knowing the plot and just how wonderful of an actor Riz Ahmed is. I personally am just super excited for more of this Middle Eastern and Arab representation, to be on the forefront. So it's really cool to see that, see
Yeah.
these people being nominated. So that's my vote's on Chadwick. And yours is on Chadwick too, Faith. And Derek, yours is on Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the final tally for the best performance by an actor in a motion picture drama is 2 for Chadwick Boseman and 1 for Gary Oldman. So let's go on to best motion picture, musical, or comedy. Borat subsequent film, Amazon Studios, Hamilton, Walt Disney, music by Landy Entertainment, Palm
Was that
Springs on Hulu, and The Prom on Netflix.
was music that like awful film Sia made?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So then it's gonna win. Then it's gonna win.
uh,
I'm voting music.
it better not.
No,
Honestly,
I don't
I
think
don't
it
really
will.
have strong thoughts on any of these. I did hear good things about Palm Springs. The Borat movie was pretty topical, but other
Mm-hmm.
than that, I don't really have a preference. Yeah, maybe Palm Springs. Why not?
I'm gonna say Palm Springs because having seen it, it is a delightful movie. It was just an awesome take on, the recurring day Groundhog Day type story.
I
And there was really good and it was just really good performances and it was really, really funny. So that has my vote.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to be going with Palm Springs. I again, kind of the same reasons. I'm a sucker for a good Groundhog Day plot. I loved Russian Doll. I it's a trope that I will usually be game for. And
Mhm.
also I think the acting was really good in that. I really liked just Andy Samberg in anything. And oh
Yeah.
god, what's her name? She's phenomenal. What's her
Christina Milioti?
Yeah,
Yeah. I remember her as the one who was the mother in How I Met Your Mother. So it was really cool to see her get to have an actually good role that she could sink her teeth into because she's a really good actress and I would love to see her in more things. So yeah,
she was in
Palm
a pretty
Springs.
mediocre episode of Black Mirror, I remember. That's it. End of discussion.
Um, yeah, so that has my vote. So it looks like everyone's on Palm Springs. I hope that ends up winning.
Or we're all gonna look like fools.
How dare we?
It'll probably go to that Sia film.
Hope not. So let's go on to best performance by an actress in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. Maria Bakalova for Borat subsequent movie film, Kate Hudson in music, Michelle Pfeiffer in French Exit, Rosamund Pike in I Care a Lot, and Anya Taylor-Joy in Emma. What opinions do y'all have?
Anya Taylor-Joy is going to get it for Queen's Gambit, so let's just focus on Rosamund Pike because she got snubbed for Gone Girl a while back, and I haven't seen any of these, but I really feel I'm vibing with Rosamund Pike.
You know, you're right that she is gonna get it for Queen's Gambit. That being said, though, I could also just see this be because Anya Taylor-Joy has been one of those actresses that's been slowly kind of like creeping up to being in everything over the past few years. So I could really see this be the year where that just kind of hits its peak, and she's just showered in the praise that she so rightly fully deserves. So
She
I
was
could
one of those. She was one of those actresses. When I saw her in The Witch, I was like, "Huh, that's someone I'm going to keep an eye on." And then I
yeah.
forgot about her until The Queen's Gambit.
I feel like everyone did because that's exactly what one of my friends said. But I haven't seen any of these either. So I'm just gonna. Oh, actually, I have seen Borat subsequent movie film. So I'm gonna go with her because she did a great job in this movie, especially for it being such an awkward movie. She did great, and obviously the whole Giuliani thing was fabulous. So my vote's on Maria. Yours is on Rosamund Pike, Derek. And who do you say, Faith?
I think it's gonna be Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's gonna sweep.
Yeah, for sure. Which would be wonderful because I loved her. I was excited to eventually see Emma again before everything just kind of.
Yeah. See, and the other thing about that, so I hated the book Emma with a passion. And she made
Oh,
me
this book.
like that. Yeah, it's awful. It's atrocious. I had to read it in high school. I was miserable the
Next
whole
episode is going to be an Emma watch.
Well, she actually did make me like the character of Emma a lot more. I saw her in that and I was like, okay, she gets a pass in this one.
All right.
But I'll be back for the next
The
one.
character of Emma, not Anya Taylor-Joy.
So then let's go to best performance by an actor in a motion picture, musical, or comedy. Got Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat's subsequent movie film, James Corden for The Prom, Lin-Manuel Miranda for Hamilton, Dev Patel for The Personal History of David Copperfield, and Andy Samberg for Palm Springs. What are y'all going for? I want to give it to Andy because, yeah, I absolutely adore everything he's in. And Palm Springs is just a very delightful movie that I highly recommend everyone see. So he has my vote.
I don't know why when I look at a list of these names I just feel meh, but maybe Dev Patel. That's it.
I feel that. It's not an exciting list.
Maybe it's just because James Corden is there. Actually, that may be the only reason why it feels like a meh list.
That makes sense.
James Corden was the best part of Cats, and I didn't see Cats.
Yes.
I think I'm also going to give it for Dave Patel just because I really like him as an actor and I would really love to see him get some love. Did I say Dave?
Yeah, you did say Dave.
Ah,
It's Dev.
Dev Patel.
Yeah, so my vote's on Andy Samberg and the rest go to Dev Patel. So let's go on to Best Motion Picture, Animated. The Croods, A New Age from DreamWorks, Onward from Walt Disney, Over the Moon from Netflix, Soul from Walt Disney, and Wolfwalkers from Cartoon Saloon and Apple. I've seen two of these movies. I've seen the Disney ones. I've been meaning to watch Over the Moon because it looks so fun. I guess my vote will be for Onward, honestly, because it was a nice little, or you know what? Probably Soul.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear Soul
That was the
is,
one that came out the most recent, and that was the one that has had a greater impact than Onward
yeah.
has.
I haven't seen it, but my sister's watched it and she loved it, so I'm gonna go with that. I will also say that Wolfwalkers, I got ads for it on Apple TV. It looks gorgeous,
It is.
but also, I haven't watched it, but I'm gonna vote for Soul because I'm a simp for Walt Disney.
So I think Nala's right. I think it is that one. Yeah, that it's probably going to be Soul.
Mm.
For the Pixar
Soul or
reason,
Onward, really.
and it's an emotional Pixar movie. However, if in a perfect world, and this is the one I'm going to give it to, it's not going to win. Wolfwalkers was so good. It is such a just beautiful piece of animation. It's in this really beautiful like 2D woodblock style. The director Tom Moore, he's been doing just films based off of like the third in his Irish folklore trilogy. Notably one of
Song
them.
of the Sea?
Yeah, he did Song of the Sea.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, which was
Oh.
just it was a really beautiful movie. It had a wonderful story. It really just deserves a lot more love than it was getting, and I'm happy to see
Mm,
it nominated. And if you have Apple TV or just a friend who has Apple TV, please watch this movie. It's so good. But
if you're me and you have Apple TV.
yeah. So yeah, I think that one was the best animation of the bunch.
Well, it looks like we're all voting on Walt Disney, as you say.
We a simp for Walt Disney.
So then
Have your
let's go
pick.
to.
Well,
Huh?
I'm saying Wolfwalkers.
Oh, okay.
I'm just because it deserves it, so I'm saying it.
Why not? So 2 for Soul, 1 for Wolfwalkers. And if it's the continuation of the Song of the Sea saga, that was a beautiful movie. So all right, going on to Best Motion Picture Foreign Language. Another round from Denmark, La Llorona from Guatemala and France, The Life Ahead from Italy, Minari from the US, and Two of Us from France and the US.
I don't think I've ever seen in this category or Guatemala. Like, I don't think has a Guatemalan film ever been nominated for best motion picture.
I don't think so.
I feel like that's good on Guatemala. Congrats for the nomination. There's also I also only know I feel like I mostly know this because I am an Asian American, but there's been a lot of press about Minari in its inclusion in this category. Now it is foreign language, and it seems like Minari is mostly in Korean. But people have been talking about how it should be in the just in the best picture category. And I don't know how I don't it's a tricky situation because it is a Korean American film. It's not a Korean film, it's a Korean American film. It's an American film that is mostly in Korean, and it's something that we don't try to think about a lot, that there in this good big country that there are other languages being spoken, and it can still be fully American. So there's been a lot of news around that, and I hear it's good. I would put money on it just out of bias. So that's my pin in the tally. But it's an interesting sort of aura around the film with this nomination, I guess.
And it's an A24 film. They've, been known to make some good quality stuff. So I'd go with that too.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp. I think it's gonna be Minari, and I kind of am in the camp that I'm like they should have just put it in the rest of the movies made in the USA and considered it for it. I think it's really silly that they went. You don't qualify for these bigger awards because you're not in English, because we don't speak only English in the United States. So
Yeah.
I just, and also just I have a lot of opinions on like that as a criteria in general. Like I get
Yeah.
it why it's but
Well,
I I get it from like we're a from in the USA. This is a for like things that have like been in the USA, but Minari should be in the category for that. If it's gonna be like language, it feels weirdly the fact that it's exclusively language that makes it go into
yeah.
this
The
other.
category is called foreign language, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, what was it always called that?
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't, or maybe it has been, and just the fact
Mhm.
that they
Yeah.
pulled this
Because
made us realize that, and
'Cause
but
if it were called international films, then obviously this would be misplaced because this is an American film, but this is a foreign language, and I have to wonder, has it always been called that, or have I just been making stuff up, or just categorizing it because of this is kind of the first big film to really poke a hole in those, poke a hole in the status quo, really.
mhm.
All right, we're all three for Minari.
Yeah.
Going on to
We
best performance by an actress in a supporting role in any motion picture. Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman in The Father, Jodie Foster in The Mauritanian, there it is again, Amanda Seyfried in Mank, and Helena Zengel in News of the World. I'm gonna give it to, I guess, Amanda Seyfried in Mank because I have heard a lot of good things about her performance.
Yeah, she is very good. Um, yeah, and actually, you actually just kind of blindside you, because I also want to shout out Lily Collins is also in this movie, and I also thought she was nomination worthy, and it was kind of crazy because Emily in Paris was also a big thing when that movie came out, when Mank came out. So it was just like, man, these are two different Lily Collins here. But yeah, Amanda Seyfried, I would put it down for Mank.
Faith, what say you?
I really wanted to go to Jodie Foster for no other reason than I love Jodie Foster. She's kind of one of those actresses that I'll have the thought of, I haven't seen her do anything in a while. She's still doing stuff, and then I'll look her up and it'll be like, "Oh yeah, she did this little thing." And I'll be like, "Oh, cool." So I would like to see I would like to see her get it for no other reason than I like Jodie Foster.
So two for Amanda and one for Jodie. See how it goes. Now, best performance by an actor in a supporting role in any motion picture. Sacha Baron Cohen in Trial of the Chicago 7. He's also a double nomination. Daniel Kaluuya in Judas and the Black Messiah. Jared Leto in The Little Things. Bill Murray in On the Rocks. And Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami.
It's interesting that Bill Murray is nominated for supporting because from what I gathered from the trailer, he was like the lead male in that film. But whatever.
What are your votes, Derek?
I like Daniel Kaluuya.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good actor.
That's what I was gonna
I
say.
haven't seen many of these.
And knowing the character that he plays in Judas and the Black Messiah and his story, I definitely think he's gonna do a wonderful job. So my vote is also on Daniel Kaluuya. What about you,
I
Faith?
I think I'm gonna go with Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami. One Night in Miami being another film that I've been hearing a lot of good buzz about. It is Regina King's directorial debut, which Regina
Hmm.
King is just such a cool person, and
Yeah.
I wish her
She
all the success in the world. I'm really happy to hear that. I'm really excited to finally get to watch it, but I've been hearing phenomenal work from it. So I would really love to see it get some acting recognition, especially because she's a actor turned director. I feel like actor directors have a the good ones have a really good way of getting performances out of their peers, especially someone as well respected as an actor as Regina King.
Well, I'm reading on stuff on One Night in Miami, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. So I'm definitely gonna be checking these movies out, especially since they are other award contenders. So one for Leslie Odom Jr. and two for Daniel Kaluuya. Now moving on to the Best Director category in a motion picture. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman, David Fincher for Mank, Regina King for One Night in Miami, Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of the Chicago 7, and Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. I'd like to just say that it's really cool having three women nominated and only two men. Like, wow, the tables are
That was a
turning,
headline, wasn't
which
it,
is
huh?
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
As someone who did a presentation on women in film and like the lack thereof, this is a pretty awesome step in the right direction.
Mhm.
I'm trying to
Um,
really think of the last time I've seen a big directing award like this have primarily women in the category. I don't think that's ever happened.
I think
mhm,
there was a
mhm.
headline specifically because it hasn't until now. Fact check that for me. I'm not gonna research anything. Um, I all I'm gonna say is because Regina King. That's it. End of sentence.
I'm gonna say Chloe Zhao, because she's also the director of the new Marvel's Eternal movies, Marvel's
Yeah.
Eternals movie, and I've heard things from people who've worked with her, and her run in the festival award circuit. Like she's a pretty big up and coming director, so I would not be surprised with her winning for Nomadland, especially since I've been seeing a lot of buzz around that movie as well. So that's my vote.
Yeah, I see. I'm in this weird. I really don't care. I would love to see as long as one of the three of them win, especially because the people they're going up against are David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin. You have these
Mhm.
three, two up and coming directors, one act like renowned actress turned director. Like so, these are underdogs. Like all the women in this category are clearly underdogs against the big names such as David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin. So any one of them winning would just be iconic. However, I think I kind of going back to Regina King. I love her. I really want her to be successful. I want her to I want this to sweep. So I'm gonna go with Regina King.
Awesome. Two for Regina, one for Chloe. Now going on to Best Screenplay for a Motion Picture. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman, Jack Fincher for Mank, Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of the Chicago 7, Florian Zeller and Christopher Hampton for The Father, and Chloe Zhao for Nomadland.
I do want to point out Jack Fincher is I believe David Fincher's dad.
Mm.
And he is no longer with us. And so
Oh.
but like essentially it's his screenplay from back then, and then David Fincher just this is a very much a passion project for David in that sense. So yeah, that's kind of like I think I would that for that I like even though everyone else here is probably way more deserving of it and alive, um, I'm gonna say Jack. Just
One
to
for
throw
Jack.
just throw a ball in the curve.
What about you, Faith?
I think I'm gonna go with Emerald Fennell, kind of going back to Promising Young Woman is getting a lot of buzz lately, especially just in its story. So I and this category doesn't have as many women, which is disappointing. But I mean, so I want her to win also for that reason.
So we have our final tally for screenplay is two for Emerald Fennell and one for Jack Fincher. Now, rounding out the nominations for films is the best original score for a motion picture. Alexandre Desplat for The Midnight Sky, Ludwig Jorgensen for Tenet, James Newton Howard for News of the World, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for Mank, and Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Baptiste for Soul. I mean, awesome for Trent Reznor getting
I know.
nominated twice. I mean, way to take it all the way.
Yeah, I agree. Good job. Good job, boys. Good job, post Watchmen.
Hmm.
Really crazy that they went straight from Watchmen to Mank.
Well, they the score that I remember them most for is The Social Network.
Oh yeah, they are very capable boys when it
S-
comes to making music.
have they won any? Have they won awards for their scores yet?
I think they did. I think they did win for Watchmen actually. I'm going to go for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for Mank.
I'm gonna go for Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Baptiste for Soul.
I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna go with our boy Ludwig because I've heard none of these scores, but I've been jamming out to the Mandalorian score, which is phenomenal.
Oh, is he
Uh,
working on that
He
one?
did the Mando score.
yeah,
Nice.
I might change my answer only because I love the Mandalorian score. He should win for that.
he should win for not the score he was nominated for. He should
Yeah.
win for this television score movie
I
award.
mean, he might be nominated for that. We won't know until next week.
No television scores aren't nominated.
Oh, well, whatever.
Well, I haven't heard the soundtrack in Tenet, but I have heard the soundtrack in Soul, and it's really good. So I'm gonna still do Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Baptiste. So 2 for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, 1 for all of them and John Baptiste for Soul, and 1 for Ludwig Göransson. And finally, that brings us to Best Original Song in a Motion Picture. Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah, Hear My Voice from The Trial of the Chicago 7, Scene from The Life Ahead, Speak Now from One Night in Miami, and Tigress and Tweed from The United States versus Billie Holiday.
So just because I know Leslie Odom Jr. is talented and it's One Night in Miami and I know I need to see it, let's go with Speak Now. I think that'll be a good, safe choice.
Nice. I'm going to go with Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah.
I'm gonna go continuing. I want One Night in Miami to sweep. I'm gonna go with Speak Now.
Well, there we go. 2 for Speak Now and 1 for Fight for You. So we'll be back next week with the television nominations for the Golden Globe. Derek, do you want to join us for that?
Oh, hell yeah. I love TV. No, it's the main
That'll
reason
be
I came
more
here.
your yeah, that'll be
it's
more
my
your
buggy.
thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, now that Derek is done topicking, got a topic we should look at? Comment on our Facebook page or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to our great guest, Derek, for being on the show today. Derek, do you got anything you want to plug?
I do. I started a YouTube. I did that thing you do during quarantine where you start a YouTube channel, and this channel is called Stream Diver, and it's basically where I just basically take a little say a quick little snippet about TV shows I watched in the past months. Recently, I did a top 10 list for the year of 2020, and I put a lot of work into it. Yeah, check it out. Link in the whatever.
Will do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
We'll chat next week about more TV stuff if you want to.
It'll be more. Hopefully,
take
more
us
of us
on
have
a little
seen
bit
some
of
that.
yeah.
Anyways, be sure to catch future and previous episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, except for Apple Podcasts.
Thank you to Ty, our producer, and to Sean Thomas at fuzzstudio.com for our theme song.
We'll catch you next time.
Until then, stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye.